Good evening. It's Tuesday, the 5th of July, 2022. Welcome to Newsnight. My name is Bridget Otu. The headlines tonight.
Rightly so, that Ken Ofori-Atta doesn't have the capacity, the integrity that is required to lead an IMF program.
As ranking member on Parliament's Finance Committee, Isaac Adongo, saying Vice President Dr. Mahmoud and Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta lack the competence to lead Ghana's team to meet the International Monetary Fund. Meanwhile, angry toll booths workers storm Parliament demanding unpaid allowance. And some major senior high schools in Accra struggling to conduct full academic work as a group of organized teacher unions begin strike. In business, work commences on €500 million railway project in the Western region. And on the international front, Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda meets to attempt at reducing tensions between the two countries. Hello again, and remember the bulletin is live on Twitter at Metro TV GH. If you're on Facebook, it's at Newsnight and at Metro TV Ghana. Let's begin with our headline story. And Parliament's ranking member on the Finance Committee, Isaac Adongo, has warned the Board of Trustees of the National Cathedral to resign immediately or face future legal action for the alleged misappropriation of public funds in the execution of the National Cathedral project. And he was speaking at a press conference in the capital here, Accra.
Professor Yina, I want to tell you very good advice as a big brother, possibly a father, that being a member of the board or a trustee of an organization is a serious legal matter that imposes the highest standards of fiduciary on you. You have responsibility for the financial management of the organization. You have responsibility for the procurement activities of the organization. And you have responsibility for legal and regulatory compliance of the organization. A breach of any of these have dire consequences. So for you to be alluding to the fact that all these responsibilities that are imposed on you as a member of the board are not being performed by you but by somebody else tells me you are not even qualified to be on that trustee board. So you are there as what? Professor Nyina, the name. No responsibilities. He should just pray that this matter never goes to court and the board of directors are arraigned before a court of competent jurisdiction to answer for how they steered their fiduciary responsibilities to that cathedral. That at your age and your level, you are a sympathetic. You are sitting there and they are using your name to drink soup. And you are happy to now come and tell us that, oh, me, I'm just there, and they are using my name and they are spending the money.
And Isaac Adongo will be back to talk on the IMF and the involvement of the finance minister and the vice president. And if you're in the country, you know teacher unions are currently on strike. And the public relations officer for the Ministry of Education, Kwesi Kwarteng, has refuted claims that some national service personnel are being compelled by some heads of schools to teach due to the unavailability of teachers. According to him, measures are being put in place for the safety of students. Meanwhile, Metro TV was out to check exactly what is happening in the capital on campuses.
Tuesday, July 5, is day 1 of the teacher union strike.
Here at the Labone Senior High School, it is quite silent than usual, and this is because the school has been affected by the strike action undertaken by the teachers unions here in the country, demanding their cost of living allowance from government. Even though students are here present and dressed in their uniform, there is no teacher there to impact knowledge.
At the Accra Technical University, students were seen undertaking their practical with the help of some teachers who had come to help regardless of the strike. According to students Metro TV spoke to, they are worried the strike will negatively affect their academic work, especially ahead of the Basic Education Certificate Examination (BEC). Meanwhile, the Public Relations Officer for the Ministry of Education, Kwesi Kwarteng, has refuted claims that some national service personnel are being compelled by some heads of schools to teach due to the unavailability of teachers. According to him, measures are being put in place for the safety of students and for teachers to return to class by the close of this week.
I'm not sure it's about compelling. National service personnel ordinarily are expected to be at post. National service personnel do not belong to any of the aforementioned teacher unions, being it NAT, being it NAGAT, being it TEU or CCT. And so they are expected to also help with the other management aspects of the school, especially as a temporary measure, whilst we look at a very permanent solution to getting our teachers back to the classroom. Government is ready to engage and based on the concerns that they've raised. When it comes to matters of negotiation, obviously it's not about a position of one party. It is about the two parties building a consensus, and building a consensus will mean that there have to be compromises, there have to be improvisations, there have to be some shifting of various positions that people or parties have already decided upon. And that is going to be established through today's meeting. So,
district directors have been directed to ensure that all basic schools remain open and children who report to school are closely supervised.
We're staying on this very subject as some teachers in some senior high schools and basic schools in the Eastern Regional Capital, Koforidua, joined their counterparts across the country on the strike, demanding for cost of living allowance. And in a visit to some of the schools, it was observed the students were in their various classrooms without any teaching activity ongoing. And some basic school pupils were seen, just going home. Others were just loitering or roaming on the streets. School authorities, however, declined to speak to us when we went there. And we understand it's the same situation, across the country, not just in the Eastern region. And they're asking for 20% COLA. And they say they had 10% COLA back in 2014. So things are hard and tough, and one teacher says the economy is dealing with them, and so they are unable to feed. Right. Meanwhile, the Deputy Ranking Member on Parliament's Education Committee, Dr. Clement Apak, is urging government to immediately engage striking teacher unions who are demanding payment of their cost of living allowances, whilst urging the GES to close down schools if the strikes persist for more than 2 days. Dr. Clement Apak also warned of the undesired consequences that if the strike continues.
If you consider that one head teacher alone cannot take care and secure the safety of an entire school. So we want to urge government to immediately address the concerns of the teachers so that they can go back to the classrooms without any further delay. If this goes on beyond 2 to 3 days, it will be advisable for the GES to direct that the schools be closed down for the safety and security of the students. But ultimately, government bears the responsibility of ensuring that the needful is done so that the teachers can go back to the classroom.
And as well, the National Labour Commission has called on the Ministry of Employment and Labour Relations, the Ministry of Education, and the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission to urgently engage the 4 teacher unions currently on strike. And this was in a statement released by the Labour Commission. Its Executive Secretary, Ofosu Asamoah, urged teachers to rescind their decision to make way for negotiations.
We sympathize with them in the first place, and we sympathize with ourselves too, because all of us are victims of circumstances of the hardship in the country, except that they have taken a stance to go on strike while to back their demand. We have accordingly heard them. We are privy to the press conference. We have since had copies of the release. We have written to the government, the ministry and its agencies, to engage them and try to solve the problem. So following from that, our next thing was to appeal to the teachers to call off the strike and see reason in negotiation with the government to try and solve the problem. We did not wait for them to go on the strike. Negotiations were going on between them from their own release. They have been engaging the ministry or the government for some time. And that whilst they are negotiating, we all hope that something good comes out of it. So if at a point in time they hit a deadlock and they are unable to agree, the next step, as required or provided by the law or practice, is to report to the National Labour Commission that we put our grievances before our employers. We have been meeting on it. We have not been able to reach an agreement. In the circumstances, we are calling for your intervention, or else we have no option than to proceed on strike when the negotiations are going on. It is not for a party to go on strike, wear red armbands, or do anything that will intimidate the other party. You see, that will not bring fairness. I am aware that the action following from our letter, they have already sent the invitation to them for tomorrow and the next. We gave them 7 days. But I am aware that letters about invitation have already gone out to them for the engagement to begin tomorrow and Wednesday.
Right, and Deputy Ranking Member of Parliament's Finance Committee, Isaac Adongo, has attributed Ghana's decision to run to the International Monetary Fund for a bailout to government's excessive borrowing and unsustainable debt levels. At a press conference in Accra, the Bolga Central MP debunked suggestions by government officials that the COVID-19 pandemic and the Ukraine war impacted Ghana's economy.
Without a debt restructuring and something to do with bringing our debt to sustainable levels, an IMF program today will not achieve the objective. It is on the basis of this that I had said earlier, and my flag bearer rightly so, that Ken Ofori-Atta doesn't have the capacity, the integrity that is required to lead an IMF program. You see, when Ken Ofori-Atta moved from data bank and business to manage the economy, he needed to recalibrate. The skill sets are not the same. The capacity is not the same. He needed to recalibrate. But you cannot recalibrate capacity you don't have. To recalibrate to become a fit-for-purpose finance minister that can deal with fiscal policy, that can deal with financial stability, the macroeconomy, and work with monetary policy authorities require that you must already have that skill set, which you had buried because the work you were doing did not require it. So you recalibrate and bring it on board, but you didn't have it. So the recalibration has continued to date and it has not worked. You want that person to lead an IMF program. It cannot be.
Now, meanwhile, Deputy Energy Minister Andrew Ejapa-Mensah says the sole reason government is running to the International Monetary Fund for bailout is the clear failure of policies they implemented, such as e-levy and cutting cost on expenditure. He says Ghanaians should not hold an entrenched position because seeking a bailout will protect the economy from collapse.
And the expectation was that by mid to end year, if the program runs successfully, we would clearly be in a position to then have a handle on our finances. But we all seen the performance of the e-levy. Of course, the brouhaha that was associated with this passage, the delay, and ultimate passage and implementation on May 1st. Clearly, the numbers are not in a position to then provide government with the kind of comfort that it needed. And so, obviously, you then have to take a decision whether you would be political, if you like, because, of course, our friends on the other side were always insisting that go to IMF, go to IMF, go to IMF, or that you be nationalistic in your decision making by taking a step that then protects the national interest. And I think that that's what government has done, because clearly the burden share measures that were put in place is not yielding the desired result. And so it's important to safeguard the economy, which has been the bedrock of all the decisions that we've taken right from 2017 to date, ought to be taken to ensure that this economy does not grind to a halt. Okay, so you see, I expect His Excellency the President to lead the conversation.
Right, and the call to get the finance minister out of office has intensified, while some economists and opposition NDC argue he has poorly managed the economy. Some civil society organizations are worried about the finance ministry leaving the information minister to defend government's economic policies.
Some economists argue that earlier assurances from government about the economy were not from an informed position. They cite government's reliance on an IMF bailout to rescue the ailing Ghanaian economy as indications of hiding the real state of the economy. This, they believe, is the reason for the clamor on the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta to be sacked.
A finance minister that has embarrassed the president several times is still at post. And your record too is not good. And I think that he qualifies as the worst finance minister we've ever had in the Fourth Republic. No two ways about that. And so he does not have the right to lead this particular negotiation. He does not. He does not qualify in any way.
Do the honorable thing. Save your brother the embarrassment. Just resign. Just resign. We all know you are good. But this area, for what we are going through now, for the things you said, it's just proper to resign.
Former President John Dramani Mahama has on several occasions also called for the head of the finance minister.
Those directly responsible for the economic crisis must bear responsibility, and it is inconceivable that the Minister of Finance remains at post. Having presided over the worst economic meltdown in Ghana's recent history, the President must, as a matter of urgency and without further delay, relieve the Minister of Finance of his position. It is now beyond debate that we currently find ourselves in an almost hopeless situation, which we will remain in until very drastic and far-reaching steps are taken to get out of this mess. This is devastating news for any economy, let alone one plagued with the deep-seated problems that we have. He should fire his finance minister. He should conduct a major shake-up of his government.
The Minister for Information, Kojo Oppong Nkrumah, however, has a totally different opinion.
The minister and his team are putting their details together. They will come back to the task force the president chairs, and the president is responsible for economic policy. I think sometimes we think that the finance minister is responsible for the economy. The finance minister actually is responsible for fiscal policy. The Bank of Ghana is responsible for monetary policy. Real sector development, broader economic policy sits with the president. He has an economic management team under him that will be doing the day-to-day management. The president is in full control of the end-of-day engagements that we'll have with the fund.
Wading into the conversation is the senior vice president and policy analyst at Imani Ghana, Kofi Bentel, who has advised government to entirely review the work of the finance ministry.
Somebody made a statement the other time that there are deputy ministers who are more powerful than the vice president. I don't think that's true. But why are they making those statements? I think it's time for us to take a good look at the finance ministry setup. There are so many deputy ministers there, okay? And I think the president should take a look at that because that team clearly has failed. And so, to the extent that the finance minister has to bear ultimate responsibility, that call is not misplaced. But I think the president should take a big look and redo the finance ministry and set things right.
Prior to the passage of the e-levy, top government officials, including Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and the finance minister, Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta had indicated strongly that the government would never return to the International Monetary Fund (IMF) for any financial assistance regardless of the country's economic conditions, in pressing on Ghanaians to support the controversial e-levy.
Right, so let's just take a look at who else is asking that the finance minister be sacked or be removed from office. And unfortunately, we don't have Yao's picture. Yamode, he's an economist, and he has called for the sacking of the finance minister, given reasons that, under the presidency, Nana Akufo-Addo, Ken Ofori-Atta has recorded the lowest GDP in the past 35 years of Ghana's history in economic management. According to Ken Ofori-Atta, has mismanaged the economy so much that he does not deserve to be at post anymore. Isaac Adongo, you saw him, the MP, Member of Parliament for Bolgatang Central, and he says the finance minister should be dismissed for, quote, disastrously, unquote, mismanaging the economy. Now, according to him, it is the only way for the government to be able to revive the tattered economy. He also said he's not fit to meet the IMF team. Norton, Member of Parliament, Samuel Kujato Ablakwa, the Member of Parliament also wants the sacking of Ken Ofori-Atta over what he describes as, again, disastrous management of Ghana's economy. Abraham Amaleba, he's a lawyer, NDC, member of NDC legal team as well. He's a member of the NDC legal team, and he's saying Ken Ofori-Atta should be fired from the job. His reason is that the country is in a mess because of the finance minister, and he has superintendent over excessive borrowing. Raymond Abloh is a communications specialist, student of GIJ. And in January 2020, Raymond Abloh called for the head of the finance minister all the way back in January for similar reasons stated in the previous slides. In post, he asserted that managing a private business is not the same as managing the economy of a country. I've heard other people who we don't have on the slides there. All right. So residents of Apramodo in the Western region have discovered an unknown substance beneath the soil. Black sticky material is suspected to be crude oil. Following the finding on Sunday, the traditional ruler in the area, Nana Eja Kwamina the 11th, took up the matter. Now, according to him, the community would investigate and ascertain exactly what the substance could be, although the community could not really confirm if it was crude. Experts have been invited to investigate the material. The chief and his elders are hoping the substance would turn out to be a meaningful carbon resource, especially crude or mineral resources capable of assisting in the transformation of the area. Okay, so we have the chief on the line, Nana Eja Kwamina the 11th. He's the chief of Apramodo in the Western region. Good evening, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening.
Can you tell us what steps you've taken since the discovery?
Let me take this opportunity to say good evening to the people of Ghana, and then my own community, Apramodo community. As you already said, we've taken a bold step that we've not yet confirmed the substance to be crude oil, but plans are underway, and we've sent the couple of the substances to lab at Tema Oil Refinery for them to prove that indeed it's crude oil.
Okay.
That we can all be happy and jubilate about it.
When is this supposed to happen? And I would imagine that the community is excited. What exactly do you think this would do for the community? Apramodo, I know Apramodo very well.
You know Apramodo very well?
Yes,
what am
I grew up in Sekendi, yes.
Oh, okay. Well, we're praying that this crude oil will bring a blessing and then development into the area. In fact, Moreover, we are now under a Fiakwesiminti Municipal Assembly.
Right.
And I'm hoping this will be a blessing because, Apramdo has served Ghana very well. Indeed, we have this military barracks, the 2BN barracks, which yet, as my predecessors leave the land to the government, as of now, we've not had any compensation on that area.
Right.
And I think with this, it will facilitate things for the government to pay the compensation before attending to this substance, assuming it's a crude oil.
Okay, Nana, thank you very much for talking to us. We'll definitely be following up on this. And of course, I'm sure for the people that they're holding their breath, hoping that it is what they want it to be, crude. Right, so you're live on News 90 on Metro Television with me, Bridget Otu. We're taking a break. When we come back, we'll look at what's happening because we understand, remember the government has seized the collection of toll. The staff are agitating over their unpaid allowance. We have details after the break.
If the persons with disability were consulted before the cancellation of the toll booth, we wouldn't have been where we are. So you brought it for the first time, you come for the second time. We will not sit and be waiting for the third time.
Welcome back to Newsnight. And angry toll booth workers have stormed Parliament demanding immediate payment of their allowances. Deputies of the majority and the minority who met the protesters assured them Parliament will address their concerns.
The toll workers were disengaged following a directive by government to halt the collection of tolls on roads and bridges across the country after the introduction of the e-levy. Despite an assurance to reassign them and pay their salary arrears, the toll workers say they are yet to receive salaries since January this year. The group, upon reaching Parliament, was received by the representatives from both the minority and majority sides of the House.
We are presenting a petition on behalf of the Ghana Toll Workers Union to Parliament because we believe that Parliament will do the right thing for us as citizens.
Deputy Minority Whip Ahmed Ibrahim and the Deputy Majority Whip Lydia Hassan, who received the petition, assure that their concerns will be addressed.
So you brought it for the first time, you come for the second time. We will not sit and be waiting for the third time. Whatever we will do as a parliament, when Mr. Speaker comes, together with the leadership, the two leaders said we should come and represent, and that's why you are seeing us here.
I have received the petition, and I would ensure that the Speaker receives it. Your concerns, I would say, are genuine, and we will do whatever it takes to ensure that they are addressed.
The union contends that government's failure to re-engage them after the collection of tolls was halted and has had an adverse impact on their livelihood, hence calls for the allowance arrears to be paid.
Well, if you were in Tema, you probably didn't see the rains. But for those in the capital, Tuesday's 4-hour downpour in Accra flooded over 100 communities in the Dade Kotopon municipality due to the reconstruction of the Kweshi Bridge. One side of the Kweshi Bridge was blocked, preventing free flow of rainwater into the sea. Frederick Clarence Williams has the rest of the story.
The Tuesday heavy rainfall has triggered flooding in some parts of Accra. The downpour began early Tuesday morning and has led to the distractions to transport, causing many people to evacuate their homes. The situation has left commuters stranded in lorry stations and in vehicles as they transit to work and other places. The construction of the La Beach Road has caused serious floods anytime it rains, affecting over 100 communities through the stretch of the Kweshi Lagoon. The contractors working on the Kweshi Bridge blocked one side of the channel in order to reconstruct the bridge that connects from La to Tishi and its environs. This phenomenon affects communities and households on the stretch of Kweshi Lagoon, which, when it rains, renders people homeless and destroy properties. According to residents, the recent floods from Accra Mall through Chado to some parts of La was due to the lack of engineering labs.
If they don't raise the bridge to some height, what they've caused here, they will cause the worst one. So they have to raise it to some height and then give way to the water to flow as it has been flowing. But this is the first time this blockage have happened, and it have caused to Accra Mall and other affected areas.
We have done a series of demolitions. Those demolitions never solved the problem. And thank God today, when the rain came down, we realized that the access to the sea was blocked by the contractor. As a result of that, the water was not going on. There was a flooding. This situation has nothing to do with the residents. It is purely an engineering solution.
The residents lamented it is unacceptable for a construction on the beach road to continue to cause havoc to residents whenever it rains.
Following the drone, then we came to find out that yes, it's true. They've blocked one side of the bridge, so it's not giving the water chance to flow as it flows to the sea. But you know, water is strong, so as time is going on, it have taken its way to take what they fill up and it's flowing now.
If an engineer blocks the passage of the road, of the waterway, certainly water will not get into the sludging place, and that will create nuisance to residents. And for me, I am happy today that this has happened. And once it has happened, it is creating awareness among us that there's a need for us to collaborate with the authorities to find permanent solution to the problems we have.
But the engineer at the Dadikotopong municipality said his outfit is working tirelessly with urban roads to bring finality to the problem.
We have reached out to the urban roads engineer within the municipality. She is also making arrangements to meet with the contractor and the consultants working on this stretch of the road, so that as early as possible they can attend to the situation and then resolve it, so that in the coming days or coming weeks we will not experience such flooding again.
I wish that was the case, but brace yourself, because the head of Central Analysis and Forecasting Officer of the Ghana Meteorological Agency, Felicity Ahafianyo, says there will be more rains in the coming days.
For the rain for this week, yes, we still have some rain for the country. We are expecting ISO to scattered cases from yesterday through to Sunday. But then it's going to vary, or it's not going to occur at the same time over the entire country. We have this Google Weather app, we have the Apple Weather app, and then we have those forecasts that are based on satellite and other models that they are running. So they are coming in and then they are giving those forecasts. But when it comes to Ghana Meteorological Agency, we have only flood alert app that is functioning now. When it comes to on the go weather app, we are now developing it. It's not ready yet. Once it's ready, we will release it into the public domain. But what we are doing now is purely the social media type of update, where we prepare the forecast 3 times in a day, the morning, the afternoon, and the evening. So this morning, before 6 a.m., the morning forecast was released, where the rain was captured in for Accra, Aflao, and some other areas. And then the afternoon is ready by 11, which was also released. Then the evening one for today will also be released around 4:30, which will take effect from 6 p.m. So when you pick it now, you now have the individual hours. We have a 6 hours. So you have the afternoon. If you pick the afternoon today, you have today's afternoon, you have today's evening, and then tomorrow morning. If you pick the evening today, it will tell you how the weather will be at selected cities today evening, tomorrow morning, and then tomorrow afternoon. So we are always on the go giving the update.
Energy Minister Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh says functional libraries will play a key role in improving education across the country. He was speaking when he commissioned a new library at Ashtown in Kumasi.
The Energy Minister, who is a former Minister of Education, was speaking at a colorful ceremony at Ashtown to unveil a one-story 200-seater library complex for the people of Menchia South constituency in the Ashanti region. Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, who was joined by the Asantehima, Nana Konadu Yadom III, urged the young people of Menchia South constituency to take advantage of the important resources provided in the library.
Education is one of the legacies Asantehene will leave. What he's done for education is unparalleled for an individual, not based upon government resources. So he wholeheartedly gave the land for us to use as an edifice for education and in the constituency. So we decided to build a library, a befitting library for the community.
On his part, the Director General of the Ghana Education Service, Professor Kwesi Opoku Amankwa, noted that the ultra-modern library will go a long way to enhance teaching and learning.
We need to thank and be grateful to those who had the vision to have this facility. As you rightly said, library is a core area, a core facility for literacy development, for teaching and learning generally. So it's important that we have such a facility all over in the country.
On the issue of free SHS, the Director General of the Ghana Education Service touted the policy and how Ghana had fared so far.
All the efforts that the government is making in the area of education will come to naught if we don't encourage our children to cultivate the habit of reading. Today we are in a world where a lot of the things that we do it either online or using computers and things like that. It is very important that even within that sphere, we still encourage people to take a book and read.
The Executive Director of the Ghana Library Authority, Hayford Sian, commended the efforts of the Menchia South legislator and asked for support from Corporate Ghana and other MPs to emulate the gesture of the former Education Minister. The library complex was named after the late Asantehema, Nana Fiako Bisewa Ampim II.
Right, so when we come back from the break, the president is talking about the railway, and you would want to hear what he has to say. Stay with us for business after the break.
Welcome back to Newsnight Live on Metro TV. My name is Winston Taki. And now to a first business story. Ghana's non-traditional export earnings amounted to $3.3 billion, reflecting a 17% increase over 2020 earnings of $2.8 billion. These were contained in a report launched by the Ghana Export Promotion Authority.
The impressive showing of non-traditional sector in 2021 over 2020 was due to a general increase in demand for major processed and semi-processed products. The year under review also saw expansion and optimum running of installed capacities of some major companies, as well as exports by some new 1D1F export-oriented companies. Cocoa paste maintained its lead over cocoa butter as the highest earner, with aluminium plates, sheets, quails as lowest earner of top 10 leading products. Total value of the top 10 leading products amounted to over $2 billion, representing 62.96% of total non-traditional earnings for 2021. Dr. Efua Asabia Asare is the Chief Executive Officer of Ghana Export Promotion Authority.
In 2013, you see that we did 2.4 billion as the national export was 13 billion. In 2021, as we did 3.3 billion, the national export, overall export for Ghana was 14.72 billion. So you can see that non-traditional export or value addition export forms quite a huge chunk of the overall exports, and we need to pay particular attention to this phenomenon.
Launching the 2021 Non-Traditional Export Statistics Report by the authority, the Deputy Minister of Trade, Herbert Krapa, mentioned that the 17% increase in earnings shows growth.
Our year-on-year earnings from 2018 have shown a positive trajectory. 2018 year-on-year 2019, we saw a growth of about 10% on non-traditional export earnings. 2019-2020 year-on-year 3%. 2020 we saw a decline for obvious reasons. We dipped by negative 1.84%. Today we find that 2021 year-on-year we've increased our non-traditional export earnings by 17%. That means we have moved it from 2.84 billion to 3.33 billion United States dollars. That is significant.
The government has set out a vision to move the country's non-traditional exports from current $2.8 and $2.9 billion to $25.3 billion in a matter of a decade.
Now, away from that, work has commenced on a new railway line from Manso to Huni Valley in the Takwa Nswim municipality of the Western region. The rail network forms part of the project to expand Ghana's rail network. The move forms part of government's drive to expand railway infrastructure in the country. President Akufo-Addo performed the shortcut and said the project shows government's determination to expand the country's rail network system. The president also acknowledged the contribution of his predecessors in positioning the sector over the years.
I urge each one of us to lend our support to the growth of the railway sector. A modern rail transport system will help promote industrialization, development and job creation, and will thereby help uplift the general standards of living of the Ghanaian people. Over the last 5 years, we've laid a solid foundation for our railway sector.
Minister for Railways Development, John Peter Amewu, said government is investing heavily in the railway sector.
Today, we are gathered here again to tell Ghanaians where our money is going into. This project is in a sum of over 500 million euro. And this is a typical example of the taxpayers' money. The money the government continues to borrow day in, day out. This is what we are using the money for. The development of the railway sector in Ghana currently has been unprecedented.
The 500 million euro Manso-Huni Valley Railway project is expected to improve transportation in the area. That'll be all for business. We'll be back with sports after this break. It's time for sports. My name is Phil John Quarter. Good news for the Blasters and the technical staff because 28-year-old Atletico Bilbao striker Inaki Williams has made his intention clear to play for Ghana during the upcoming Mundial to be staged in Qatar. We're being told. There you see him on the picture, the official video on his Twitter handle. That is Inaki Williams. He was born in Spain to Ghanaian parents, had his first stint for in the Spanish national team under 20s. We're being told that he and his brother are likely to play for Ghana. And also, the news coming from Spain is that he has completed his documentation with the Spanish Football Association, who now give the authority to switch, FIFA, to switch him finally to play for Ghana. So there you have it over there. Inaki Williams is likely to play for Ghana in the 2022 World Cup. That is Inaki Williams. He's 28. He plays for Atletico Bilbao in the Spanish La Liga.
Onjabel over there have qualified for a first Grand Slam semi-finals. Certainly, by Saturday we'll win whether she'll become the first African player to win a Grand Slam. Our fingers will be crossed. That's it for sports. My name is Phil John Quote. Up next is entertainment.
My name is Isiodua Akumia, and it's time for entertainment news. My name is Isiodua Akumia. Now, the history of Afrobeats has been documented with the title Afrobeats, the backstory, and is now streaming on Netflix. Earlier on Entertainment Review, Ludwig Nee Jr., who is a UK-based entertainment journalist, shared his view on Afrobeats and Ghana's contribution in relation to this documentary.
What I can remember, and many people can remember, DJ Abranteɛ was the person who was pioneering Afrobeats. It wasn't necessarily about which country, it was about, he saw a vision. I don't think I saw it at the time, I'll be honest. You know, this guy is pushing this Afrobeat stuff, and all the events he does is called Afrobeats. And we used to go O2 Arena in Greenwich, and he pushed that, and he pushed that, and he pushed that. I was asked this question, I think last week when I was on radio, and the question was, if DJ Abranteɛ started Afrobeats and it was like a Ghanaian movement, how come it's almost like the Ghana side has fallen over and the Nigerian side is pushing across? And my answer was, I can't give you a definitive answer. What has happened has happened. What are we going to do now that this is where we are? Because we can go back and talk about what's gone wrong or what's gone right. But to me, my thing is that we have a lot of work to do, but our work is not as hard as it used to be.
Okay.
So we have systems to help us. We have label managers. We have got contacts. We've got radio players. We've got you guys here. So in terms of our landscape for entertainment, I don't think it's as hard as it looks like. It's a numbers game. We are competing with a country that, you know, Lagos is as big as Ghana. So there's going to be an impact. So I think sometimes I hear people say, we need to do Ghana music. We need to do Ghana Afrobeats. But Ghanaian artists are doing hip-hop, and it's not Ghanaian.
Well, that's it for entertainment news. My name is Isiodua Akumia. Bridget?
Thank you very much. It's not news next. Angola's capital, Luanda, hosts on Wednesday an attempt at mediation between the president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, and neighboring Rwanda. The meeting takes place against a background of tensions between the two countries. Angolan President João will receive his counterpart Felix Tshisekedi and Paul Kagame as relations between the two countries have been deteriorating for several weeks amid the resurgence of the M23 rebel movement and the intensification of fighting in eastern DRC. For News Night, thank you very much for joining us. My name is Bridget Otu. Do leave us your feedback on all our social media platforms.